Alright guys, welcome back to the Acer Team Story Cup Season 3 Qualifiers. This is one of the lower half of the brackets, and this is one of the ones that will help decide who goes through from today. Now, of course, it's a best of 9 between these two teams, but it's a best of 1 between every player you see today. We'll go over that more later. For now, though, spawning in the top left corner of the map, playing for XMG, the blue Protoss player, Socke.
And in the top right, as the red Protoss, it is Stardust for mYinsanity.
Now, there's a little bit of fear and a little bit of concern from what's been going on today. For those who have been left out of the loop, it turns out Violet will be playing to represent XMG. It's part of a partnership between the announced teams, and it's not at all something that's been shady or underhanded or breaking the rules. Take TV and the admins have spoken out and said, hey, no, that's totally acceptable and fine. So that being said, that's one more player that's going to be a little bit scary to deal with. There's a lot of Protoss players on XMG, and right now, if Stardust, if he can't take a quick victory here, and they got to pull Joshi out right away, I'm going to be really worried for the team. Ooh, Stardust quick to react to that too. So this is something that's actually not at all uncommon. It's just you don't really see it in professional play as much. It's been happening a little bit in some of the weekly cups, guys. To explain the thought process on this, you take both your opponent's gas, and as a Protoss player, you'll be left with only Zealots. And Zealots cannot stop anything. Whereas, if you think, he unfortunately didn't get both gases, of course, in this instance, so Socke is going to make sure that Stardust can't do Stargates. He's going to make sure this is not going to be anything for quicker Dark Templar. You're limited to your tech by only having one gas.
Yeah. Of course, Socke didn't get his own gas until later. I think his gateway was later, just by a little bit as well. Of course, he had to spend
75 resources for an assimilator steal.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's kind of the trade-off, but, I mean, if he got both down, that would actually really have screwed Stardust over, so it was really good of him to react as fast as he did.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate, too, because, like, even after that, you don't even have to worry about, like, stalkers or anything. You just go straight to your Stargate, you, like, win the game pretty much, because it's going to be, like, one stalker to stop you, but not the case here. Stardust, of course, pulled some probes to start whittling away at this. He knows he needs and wants his gas a little bit quicker. One thing we've seen Socke doing is being very annoying with this probe still while this has been going on. Nothing too crazy. He's poking at the odd probe here, stealing minerals, wasting gas. But ultimately, what he's done here is more of an annoyance than anything else.
Yeah, I'd say so. Did force him to get a Zealot that maybe otherwise he would not have. Socke himself, I believe, skipped his own Zealots. But of course, that's going to be able to take down the gas geyser the fastest. Actually, Socke's didn't get anything. That's actually Stardust Stalker. Oh, just a mothership core. Yep.
I wonder if this will prompt Stardust to go for the faster expand, though. I mean, he's not banking minerals for it by any means, but, you know, normally if you play off of one gas, it's for a faster expand anyways.
Did Socke see that? He did see the other gateway go down.
Yeah, probe got a nice scout off.
Yeah, one more gateway could just be, you know, they're gonna get up 3 stalkers and try and poke, or... Actually, I think the gateway was too late to be the stalker poke, but Socke goes for the Twilight Council and just one stalker of his own. He really didn't need much to defend now that you have the mothership core. And of course, he got that good scout off, so that
he's got a little bit of concern, though. I mean, that mothership core wanted to go across the map and snipe off probes, but realizing that there's not just this stalker and one Zealot. Like, this is an actual poke that he's going to have to deal with. Probe does dive past everything to go for scouting information. Actually, really cool move on that regard. Did he see the Twilight Council? No, unfortunately. Oh, that would have been so heroic, though, if he had seen that Twilight Council.
That Zealot could survive long enough to go scout up, and that's what he's going to do.
Checking the top right, looking for a Stargate, sees nothing going to go to the top middle. We'll see the Twilight Council, but it's not researching anything, sadly. So for Stardust, this doesn't really determine Blink versus Dark Templar. Of course, we know it's going to be Blink, but Socke on purpose waited to start that. He did not want Stardust to see this researching. He did not want to see a chrono boost on this, and Stardust unfortunately saw neither. Now he's going to play a little bit safe, a little bit paranoid. I mean, it's an educated guess would say Blink, because he saw no Dark Shrine already thrown down. But at the same time, you never want to assume in PvP.
Yeah. He has both, you know, by getting a Robo, he's pretty much helped himself against both Blink and Dark Templar, of course getting the Observer, but otherwise getting, you know, Immortals eventually. Of course, Stardust is also getting his own Blink, so actually the last PvP went exactly like this almost. I guess maybe this is one of the most more popular builds in PvP on ladder these days.
This Mothership Core from Socke might go down. This 4 Stalker's waiting for it. This is no small amount. And of course, Mothership Core is armored, guys, so he takes the bonus damage. Oh, if you could have gotten like 1 or 2 more shots off, that would have been crazy big for Stardust early on like this.
Yeah, I think he actually messed up the micro just a little bit, not to get that Mothership Core, but luckily for Socke, that is the case. He also throws down the Nexus a lot faster. He does have 3 gateways, and so will Stardust. Stardust, there you go, throws down his own Nexus.
It's surprising too just how little differentiates these 2 players. They got a pretty healthy army supply, but of course 3 Stalkers versus 6 is where it really gets scary. The 2 Sentries invested are going to be nice for force fitting out units, for maybe catching some Stalkers up the ramp, but in a head-on fight, Stardust is going to win that right now in the early game, no problem.
He might be looking to go ahead and do that. Without the Nexus being done, of course, you can't use the cannon, which luckily Socke does have, saving that Mothership Core, was why that was so important. But no, Stardust actually is back inside his own base. These are proxy pylons, so if Socke, for instance, wanted to, be out on the map, be the one who has the map presence, he could warp in a couple of zealots to really annoy him.
Yeah, both players got pylons just littering the map for the time being. The Observer does float up here, and for Stardust, it could be a big relief to see no Dark Shrine down, but of course that means, okay, it's going to be Blink, and that doesn't necessarily make it any easier to deal with.
Both players getting forges now, Stardust just a little bit faster.
I like the fact that he's going for those quicker weapons, though. I mean, weapon upgrades are usually something that are put off till much later in PvP. You can't really afford to go for them, but they still play a large effect in the matchup. Nice snipe on that probe, or the Observer, by the way, out of Socke.
Very, very quickly.
But he reveals his Blink. I think Stardust already knew it was going to be the case, but still,
yeah.
A lot of what's going to happen now, guys, from here to the actual fight engagement is going to be just kind of bulking up units. Honestly, we may even end up having a passive game to the point where there's nothing happening until Colossus are in play. But the reality is, because both of these guys are so even matched, I mean, even with that gas steal early on and whatever weirdness you want to consider for the opening of this game, it's a pretty even tile set for the way this has been set up. And I mean, even +1 weapons have been started for Socke.
One of my friends really likes your clan name tag, by the way. Stop asking who I am.
The Caster clan, yeah.
Yeah. Robotics Bay is first thrown down by Socke, but shortly followed up by Stardust. I mean, neck and neck. Are there unit differences anywhere? I think... Yes, Stardust got 1 more mortal. Socke prefers to go for the Warp Prism. This looks exactly like the last PvP we casted.
I kind of like the potential of a Warp Prism, though. It makes... I mean, the Immortal's obviously stronger. When you're in a fight 3-2, all this nonsense, like, numbers are going to be a big deal, sure. But a Warp Prism really pays off in a big way later on in the game than, say, an initial fight. And Stardust isn't forcing any sort of initial fight. In fact, blinking away immediately, quickly disengaging will almost lose one of the Stalkers. Doesn't quite. But whether it's whether it's sending the Warp Prism to your opponent's main to drop some Zealots or warp some in, or whether it's during the Colossus Wars later on, wrapping around behind your opponent's Colossus and warping Zealots directly on top of them. I mean, Warp Prisms have so much utility in this game. The problem is, while they don't cost gas, they're still a big investment because of the time it takes to build it from the Robo facility instead of building a Colossus, instead of building that additional Immortal.
It looks like Socke's not too eager to go into Colossus, actually. Well, he finally starts it, but only after starting charge. Whereas Stardust has already started, of course, his own Colossus as well as that Thermal Lance. But the Warp Prism I like specifically because I think both players are thinking it's going to be a longer game. Probably up to 3 base or more. And Warp Prism, as long as you keep it alive, is really going to help you out at every single part of the game as it goes on.
What's really cool, though, I mean, this is, again, kind of somewhat similar to what we saw versus MC and Elfie earlier, where, I think Socke is going to have that layering to his army, whereas Stardust is going to be kind of lacking that initially, especially with Zealots having charged. You're going to invest in Zealots, bottom line. And if those can charge to the front lines, if they can connect to the Immortals, connect with the Colossus, Zealots are really hard to deal with. They are surprisingly strong, no matter what's shooting them.
It's true. They're also going to be good against the fact that Stardust got so many Immortals. If you mentioned that, but... Yeah,
no, that's a good point, too, because, yeah, it's not really a heavy Colossus count, but Stardust now mixing his own Zealots. Again, guys, like, it sounds like a silly thing to say, but there's this very intricate set of layers you need to have in your army. Usually, Archons end up replacing Zealots later, because Zealots are kind of, once there's 5 Colossus out, useless, but, I mean, it goes Zealots, Stalkers, Immortals, whatever Sentries can mix in, sometimes put some Guardian Shields down, but, of course, Force Fields are irrelevant in these fights, as Colossus can break them, but... I mean, it's all about keeping you want to just have as much you can throw away cannon fodder. Everything is cannon fodder except for the Colossus. But you have to layer it in such a way so it's not given away for free.
Yeah. Has he ever used that Warp Prism? It is filled with 2 Zealots and 1 Archon, so he should be using it soon. He sees the army pushing out. Now would be an ideal time to send that Warp Prism over, and that's exactly what he does. Stardust third, by the way, finished up actually just a bit ago. While Socke is a lot farther behind.
Yeah, back in Wings of Liberty, this was like a suicide move to take a third, but does catch a couple of his stalkers off guard here. Moving back towards the main. Stardust does have a recall available, but it looks like a fight's going to be forced in the middle of the map. You may not be able to respond to this. Cannon is going to help deal with this just a little bit. Stardust going to warp in some Zealots. He should be fine at home.
Yeah. Kind of misclicked, I suppose. Did not put that Warp Prism or that Archon down. Oh, and a recall is actually forced out. Really?
Because the Archon was in a spot where the Zealots were getting choked out behind the mineral line. Stardust actually could not clean that up with what he had. Was it one nuisance of a Zealot? I thought he was attacking his own Twilight Council for a second. I didn't realize it was a Zealot squished in back there behind the pylon.
Well, I guess you're right. That was well worth it for Socke pulling back the entire army. I mean, I don't think they're really going to clash. You really want to very carefully choose where you want to fight, unless you are for sure that you're going to win the fight, of course. When it comes to PvP engagements, that's really where it's going to come down to, especially if these guys agree to go on until they're maxed out. It's going to be who takes the better position.
This is the style of PvP I really enjoy, by the way, too. A lot of PvP we see from Europeans, from foreigners, like, the problem is it ends up being sort of that more cheesy style. It's over quick and there's no macro game, but this is going to be that huge engagement towards the end of the game. We got Archons on both sides of the field. We got charge lots for Socke. I think it's the one thing he's got over Stardust at the moment. But of course, charge lots, they're going to be effective to an extent. You want to be able to wrap them around, but I mean, the reality is Stardust got an army supply lead right now. The Colossus count's looking pretty good for him. It's won over his opponents. They've got the same sort of level of buffering. It's going to come down to positioning so very much, though.
Yeah. Another thing is that Stardust, now that he knows that a Warp Prism is out on the field, he is putting up those cannons, which is going to actually really help out. These Zealots are a great idea, but not not when Stardust's army is right there. Zealots in the natural.
Yeah, but Stardust and Warp and shit are combined with Cannon. Cannon does go down, though, which is just a little annoying. The Warp Prism is going to get out to see another day. A couple Stalkers are going to chase it down. It's critical that Stardust did not throw too many Stalkers back of his base. He cleans up the Warp Prism. Threat now eradicated. But if he had thrown all of his army back there to deal with it in like one giant army move, that would have opened up a big door for Socke to come into this third.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
God, the Colossus count's getting really out of hand, too. We're coming up to 5 to 7. I mean, realistically, Stardust is always going to be up 1 at this point. Unless Socke throws down like a Stargate or a second Robo, there's no real way for him to...
Which he did.
Yeah, there's completing a second time. Sorry, I didn't see that production tab. Thank you. But the point is, like, he was kind of struggling. But Stardust now in 3 bases as well is going to have the economy to do the exact same thing. So this 2 production that Socke's got right now, this is what he kind of needs. And this is his little edge way back into this. But again, I need to bring up the fact that Stardust is still ahead in Army Supply lead in a big way.
Stardust is going to have a slight timing where he might be about 10 to 20 supply ahead, and you could try and attack in there. That usually doesn't happen, though. That is so specific, and you have to spend so much time making sure you're taking the right engagement that Socke is also going to be max. And it's going to come down to who has the better bank. Although sometimes in PvP, someone takes an atrociously bad position and just completely folds over to one person, but hopefully that doesn't happen here. They both have double Robo, by the way. You see Stardust getting his own. He's also getting Charge, something that he was missing. Of course, now they're exchanging Zealots for Archons. Socke was the first one to get that shield upgrade, though, immediately.
I like the Plasma Shields over armor in this instance, because it's your Archons that are going to be the buffer for the army. Yeah. It's their massive shields that are going to be soaking the hits. Not the Zealots, not your body, and certainly not the Colossus.
Yeah.
But, ooh, this gold base... really bold. He's actually killing off some of his own Zealots to make up supply for better units. I like that out of Stardust, but the gold base, guys, this is really bold for Stardust to take if he can get this secured. His Remax is going to beat out Socke's bar none every single time. And I'm not just talking through Colossus production. He'll be able to warp in Zealots, whereas Socke won't be able to. They'll both be putting all their money into reproducing Colossus, maybe warping in some Templar for Archons, but the difference is Stardust is going to have extra money, the extra resources, the extra minerals to warp in additional, whether it's Zealots, Stalkers, what have you.
What did they say the good number of Colossus was? 6, maybe? These guys were up to 8 and 10, and that's where some Protoss players are saying it's actually not worth it to go up that high. Rather put in more Archons and more Immortals.
Yeah, it's kind of like diminishing returns, like because they're going to be stuck in the back of one another, but A fight is probably going to be forced here in the middle of the map, and I say this because Stardust is going to want to hold on to his Slays Colossus, and taking your heed, going to build 2 more Immortals to replace it.
Yeah. Socke also has 10 more probes. It's always something to keep in mind when it comes to the actual engagements. Also taking down that southern base as opposed to the golden one. It was bold of Stardust to do this specifically because of this. Now, he thought he had that location secured until he was out of position for just a second, and now he's lost it.
And this is an engagement where he's walking into his opponent, but Socke's still going to retreat out of this. He certainly could have done a little bit more damage, I think, before being forced to recall, but the recall move was good. He knew he was outnumbered in a big way, and the Colossus count is quite domineering. Yeah,
like I said, it takes, you know, really good thought to how you're going to take a engagement. I mean, some people will make fun of, you know, all of us make fun of the QQ lasers or whatever, but, and that might be true, but the actual, like, 10 seconds prior to the engagement is something of, like, you know, that's why Rain is so good at PvP, right? He knows when and how and to set up his army to take those engagements, and that's what's really cool about PvP. This counterattack's doing great damage, by the way.
Yeah, great zealot run by out of Stardust. His cannons have been holding his third quite nicely. They've actually fended off about 3 waves of zealots at this point, but his cannons are finally about out. There's a Dark Templar coming in here too. But looks like Stardust is on the prowl. He fixes a couple DTs caught in the middle of the map. If Socke can snipe off that observer, this would be a good, huge advantage for him. But Stardust a little bit tentative to go up that ramp. He knows it could be a death sentence for him.
Definitely.
It looks so tempting too, because like that's a big open ramp with nothing defending it. You just want to walk up it, but even if it was just segmenting one arc on towards the mineral line, I think that would have been really nice. But of course, when it comes to Colossus Force, every unit counts, and Archons are charging forward. Socke gonna give one away for free.
Thank you. He's going to have +2 plasma shields. He's going to want to wait for that, as well as use that War Prism, which is full of Immortals, to try and get behind Stardust Army, attacking those Colossus pretty much for free, or at least distracting them long enough. It is so difficult for either player to decide to engage, though. One's upper ramp, so maybe not then, or...
I think the most critical part about this, like, assuming both of these guys have perfect positioning, and I say it in big air quotes where, like, neither of them's going to be caught in a bad spot, those time warps are going to be the most critically important thing, and Socke's already burned one.
Yes.
Stardust is going to have 2, while Socke only has 1.
That's weird. I thought Stardust was the one. Okay, yeah. Oh, anyways. Oh,
this is
gonna be better for. Oh, Socke. No.
It's a bad fight. He's walking into that funnel. He loses quite a few units already. 1 Colossus goes down. There's a Dark Templar chipping away at units, but Stardust gets the time warp right on top of the Colossus. There's no disengaging from this, and Stardust coming from multiple angles is a huge advantage. We do have Archons getting taken out, or sorry, Colossus being taken out by a couple of Zealots in the back lines, but the reality is Socke is going to have to deal with Stardust reinforcements as well, and he's lost every single Colossus.
Yeah, I think what happened was that even he knew that wasn't a good engagement, but he was trying to micro, you know, just like 3 seconds where you didn't pull back your army.
Yeah. Well, that was a good game. I'll give it that. PvP on the top tier level, whether it's Korean or whether it's foreigner, European like Socke, it still looks out really nice. It is a lot of fun to watch, but Laser Shows will lead mYinsanity 1-0 in this best of 9 series. Again, if you're unfamiliar with the Acer Team Story Cup format, guys, it's a best of 9 between these teams, and it's a best of 1 between the players. Each player that wins will continue to proceed to the next round, so Stardust will be against someone else up next.